Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Should we get started, or you want to wait a couple minutes? Give everybody a chance to sign in. Ready to go? All right, I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening to everyone that's participating tonight. My name's Alan Hyatt. I'm a lawyer in Annapolis, located at 200 Westgate Circle. I represent the company known as Ingerman and the Housing Initiative Partnership. Sometimes I may refer to them as an applicant, and you will hear more about that soon. I ask you to sign in if you want to be kept apprised of this project that we're going to talk about tonight. Please include your address and email address if you think you would like to receive information about this project in the future. I'm going to give a brief description of the project, and then others will explain to you in more detail what the intentions are, and then we will have the opportunity for those that are participating to submit questions and comments. The Annapolis City Code requires that a community meeting be convened prior to the filing of an application for what is known as a planned development. Tonight, this is that community meeting being held in advance of the filing of that type of application. Once an application for a planned development is filed, it is considered by the city's Department of Planning and Zoning and other departments, and evaluated for conformance to the requirements of the city code. Among other things, a traffic impact study will be required of this applicant. Ultimately, the application will be considered and ruled upon by the City of Annapolis Planning Commission at a public hearing where members of the public will be given the opportunity to weigh in. It will then decide, the Planning Commission that is, whether to approve or deny the application that will be submitted. There are certain requirements to be described at a community meeting with respect to any application. I'm going to run through them in just a moment. But I want to state that because we are still under the conditions of emergency as a result of the COVID virus in the city, we were directed to have this meeting held virtually or electronically. Normally, we would have a meeting where public would have the opportunity to attend. But again, if you have comments after today, please email them to the email address that's showing up on the screen. It's forestdrive@livewillows.com, or you can call Amanda Smith at my office, and her direct dial is 410-260-6589, and we can provide you with the information that you're seeking. So, as I stated, this community meeting precedes an application for a planned development for the property that is known as 1701 Forest Drive. The proposed community that is the subject of this planned development is to be known as the Willows. The property in question is zoned under the R3 and R2 classifications under the city zoning maps. Those classifications allow residential uses and a certain mix of uses which we're going to describe. The property consists of approximately 3.455 acres and is located on the south side of Forest Drive between the Catherine Properties LLC lands to the east, where the proposed villages at Providence Point is pending, and then the American Legion is located to the west. There is also a strip of land that is part of the property that will consist of the Willows that abuts Newtown Drive and the American Legion property just to the west of American Legion. There's nothing going to be built along that strip. It's not large enough for that, but it's part of the overall property. For children that may live at the Willows, they would attend elementary school at Germantown Elementary. Middle school would be the Bates Middle School, and the high school would be Annapolis Senior High School. All of those schools are now open to city residents. The number of dwelling units that are being proposed here is 58, with 12 one-bedroom units, 28 two-bedroom units, and 18 three-bedroom units. Additionally, there's proposed to be 1,500 square feet of space for what we have called an incubator, sometimes called flex space, which allows for business development and internet access. This proposal falls under what is known as a special mixed plan development. That's a category in the city code. And as mentioned, that will be considered ultimately by the City of Annapolis Planning Commission that will evaluate this application. The road configuration proposed is that there will be no direct access off of Forest Drive. In the rear of this site, there will be a road that will connect this property to Newtown Drive. We will show you what that looks like on a site plan in a few minutes here. There are some man-made wetlands on the site near Forest Drive, and there's a specimen tree planned to be retained along the Newtown Drive portion of the property. The portion of the site where the structures are to be built really has no significant environmental features, and it's the wooded area along Newtown Drive that contains the trees that will remain largely intact, if not exclusively intact. Our client also intends to prepare landscaping on the property, and we'll plant street trees along the road that will connect to Newtown Drive. Overall, we believe that the impact on environmental features, as few as they are, is really negligible. This site is not in the critical area, and our engineer, Terry Schumann, who's on this call with Bay Engineering, will briefly describe how stormwater is to be managed on the site when we refer to the site plan. At this time, I would like to introduce David Holden from Ingerman, and he will describe his company as well as ultimately get into the plan. We will then introduce you to Mary Ann Dillon from the Housing Initiative Partnership for further explanation. You will be provided a description of the architectural features on the site. We'll show you the site plan, and then we will open the floor up to any questions that you may have. If we are unable to respond to your questions at this time, we will respond to them as the project moves forward. Please know that we are in the very early stages of this project, so we really may not have all the answers, but our intention is to be transparent throughout the process and responsive to any questions or concerns that you may have. At this time, I introduce David Holden. David?
Thanks, Alan. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present our proposal. I've changed the slide to just provide a little bit of information on Ingerman's development experience. We're a housing development company. We've been in business since 1982, and we've developed, as you see, close to 9,000 apartments, kind of ranging from New Jersey, just outside of New York City, down to Charles County, Maryland, just south east of Washington, D.C. Our total development cost is approaching $2 billion over the 40 years that we've been developing housing. We also manage the housing we build, so the discussions we have as part of this development process that pertain to operations will flow through, so that although the development process takes a year, the construction takes 2 years, the properties will operate for another 30 or 40, hopefully, and we believe that that's the decisions we make now can ensure long-term success as far as the operations. Again, that same management company operates in the 4 states: Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, and about 15% of our units are located in Maryland. We've been working in Maryland almost 18 years now, and have done about 10 developments there now, and have another 3 actively underway. And then finally, the third part of our company is construction. We have Ingerman Construction Company, who has, as you can see, been building since 1994. So we will provide the project superintendent and project management, and we'll work to line up local material suppliers and local subcontractors, and work with any economic development, employment operations that are local. And that's a benefit we have, as being the developer and the contractor, that we can tie in up front what we discuss as part of the development, so that it carries through to construction, and also make sure that the construction is a good experience for the surrounding neighbors as far as noise and dirt and things like that. So we have an extensive experience in locations similar to 1701 Forest Drive, and as far as developing, managing, and building. I think next we'll go to Mary Ann Dillon with our partner, Housing Initiative Partnership. A new.
Thank you very much, David. I'm Mary Ann Dillon, and I'm the Executive Director of Housing Initiative Partnership, also known as HIP. We are an innovative green nonprofit housing developer and counseling agency based in Hyattsville. We've been around for 31 years, not quite as long as Ingerman, but certainly a very extensive track record that we have. The Willows at Forest Drive will represent the 5th development that we've partnered with the Ingerman Group. We've had a very successful track record working with them. They do an outstanding job designing and building their buildings and managing at the back end. And our role as a nonprofit partner is to provide the resident services for the residents after the property is complete and operating. And you're going to hear a little bit more about that when we hear from Stephanie Prestel, who's our deputy director at HIP. She will talk about the resident services that we're going to provide. We will be hiring a part-time resident services coordinator to work with our residents at the site to create both social activities and make sure that they connect residents to any services that they need in order to succeed. We recently partnered on our first apartment community in Annapolis. We generally serve the Washington, D.C. metro area, but this photo that you see here, this rendering in this particular slide, is a rendering of Town Courts, which is right off of West Street in Gibraltar. And we're just completing construction on this. This is 42 units of townhome style apartments that we're doing in partnership with another developer out of Cleveland. And again, we will be providing the resident services at this property as well. So that's all to say that we have some experience. We're getting our feet wet in the Annapolis market, and we're looking forward to doing this deal with the Ingerman Group. So back to you. I guess, do I go back to David or do I go back to Alan?
Yeah, I think we're going to go back to David, and we're going to now start talking about the project.
Okay. So just a few bullet points about our proposal for Forest Drive. You can see the photograph now shows the existing conditions. It's essentially undeveloped land, vacant land on Forest Drive. What we're proposing is, and we'll see this a little more graphically on the site plan later in the presentation, is 3 buildings that are 3 stories each. As Alan mentioned, we have 58 units with a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The spaces will also include resident community space. We'll have on-site management, full-time and full-time maintenance on-site. And then we'll also have included a business incubator, which we'll discuss in more detail later as well. Again, some of these are more meaningful when you see the slide, but we have a playground and garden areas and some outdoor area. We have the parking space requirement addressed as well. And then a couple important things. We have 12 units set aside for individuals with disabilities. And then we also, just to talk about the buildings a little bit, we will be meeting the LEED certification for this. And just a little bit of detail about that includes the siding and the Energy Star appliances and windows, as well as interior features with spacious bedrooms, the fully equipped kitchens, and all the units will have their own washer dryers. So that just gives you a little bit of detail. Again, as Alan mentioned earlier, we're at the early stages of this project concept, and so some as far as the specific architecture and material selections, those will come as we get further along. Thank you. Here's a rendering of the buildings. Again, it mentions the LEED certification and the Energy Star, and then the Zero Energy Ready Home standards, which basically provide the current standards as far as energy efficiency for heating and cooling to make it affordable for the residents as far as utilities and as far as being environmentally responsible and use of energy. We just mentioned briefly site lighting and security, and we will also go through the requirements to ensure the adequate lighting and coverage on the site so everyone feels safe and can be safe. Next is our site plan. So I guess, Alan, is that Terry?
Yep. Terry, why don't you talk a little bit about the site plan, what everybody's looking at here, and just comment on how stormwater is to be handled on the site, please.
So thank you, Alan. My name is Terry Schumann. I'm a principal with Bay Engineering Incorporated. We're a local engineering and survey firm and happy to work on this project, this exciting project. I think it's a good fit for the area. What you're seeing here, I'm just going to orient you with this. This is a site rendering of the proposed site plan. So the top of the page is north. You can see Forest Drive and Hilltop. So we're right at the intersection of the with the traffic light there for Forest and Hilltop. To the east and or to the right of the page there is just the wooded area with a pending future project by others. To the south is Julienne Circle East, and that's the Riders Glen properties. Those are improved with units abutting up against the southern side. In the middle there is the Legion property. That's the empty white spot there. So we kind of surround on both sides the Legion property. And you see Newtown Drive to the left. That is our access point. And Alan talked about that sliver of property on the other side of Legion. That's the green portion there. So all the green areas are essentially what they are is green. The gray and is the sidewalks, the hard surfaces. Those are the skipper lane and the pavement areas, the parking surfaces. And the orange are the 3 buildings that are being proposed. In the middle there, you'll see that's the area that David talked about with a playground. It's our open space area, garden plots that will serve the residents. And again, this property, some statistics on it. It's made up of 3 parcels. It totals 3.5 acres. And as Alan indicated before, it's split zoned R2 and R3. We are outside the critical area. And as indicated before in our surveys of the property and environmental search, we did find 2 areas of wetlands. One is up on Hilltop Lane, near Hilltop Lane, or near the Forest Drive where Hilltop Lane is. It's over on the right side or the east side of that property, and there are some what appear to be wetlands. We still have some discussions with the Army Corps and NDE to see if they'll take jurisdiction of those. There are also some wetland areas down by the future Skipper Lane in the rear of the Riders Glen property there. And we still have some further work to do on those to confirm those wetlands. And as Alan indicated before, there are a couple trees. One tree is down by Newtown Drive. That was a specimen tree. And then we're essentially our main site is cleared with a couple of perimeter trees right on the property line or beyond the property line. Circulation on the site, as Alan indicated before, we will not access off of Forest Drive. Our access and for the whole development will be off of a future Skipper's Lane, which would be an extension from Newtown Drive. And then it continues to the east, through the shopping center next door and over toward the Safeway. And as indicated before, we have adequate parking on site. And utilities will be public water, public sewer served by the city. Our forest conservation, we will address forest conservation for the site. It does need to be addressed, and we plan to do that with street trees. You can see some of the street trees along Skipper's Lane that we're indicating there, along with the street trees and that wooded parcel next to the Legion, between the Legion and Newtown Drive. We will comply with the forest conservation requirements. And then just in closing, I just want to talk about stormwater. As Alan indicated, we are considered new development, and new development is required in the city to treat 125% of the state requirements. We do plan to do that on site. You can see some of the blue areas. Those are there's several blue areas on that plan. We propose to use microbioretentions, which are basically shallow depressions, and they will filter and treat the runoff. Where feasible, we will do some permeable pavement. And we also are going to treat with some Filterra boxes. These are stormwater boxes for the Skipper Lane extension. All that being said, we will comply with all the city and state requirements for stormwater management as we go through the process. Next slide. And I just wanted to touch base on the Skipper Lane extension. We're going to, as we indicated before, we covered this pretty much in our presentation, but we're going to access off of Newtown Drive, no access off of Forest Drive. And we will design that road to accommodate any possible future connection should the city plan to extend it. So with that said, I think we turn it over to the next presenter. Thank you.
So my name is Stephanie Pestle, and I'm with Housing Initiative Partnership, the nonprofit partner. And a part of this community is not only the residential apartments, but also a community space, separate community building that will be mixed use. It will also provide space for a business incubator. This clubhouse is approximately 1,500 square feet, and it'll have both our management offices, our resident services space, as well as dedicated space for the incubator, which is what makes up this mixed use joint use of the space. And we're looking to work with consultants that are working with small startup and entrepreneurial businesses. We have been talking with some nonprofits in the community that are working in the area of entrepreneurship and job training. Project Operation works with the military and members of their families on entrepreneurship. The Anne Arundel Workforce Community Development Corporation does a lot of job training work. So we're looking to have those sorts of partnerships and host workshops and trainings and have that dedicated space for both the business incubator, but then also have our offices for the operations of the community.
Okay, so if there's anybody on that wishes to submit a question, feel free to do so. You can do so afterwards. And we encourage those that are interested in this project to keep in touch through the email exchange. That email address is shown on the screen now. If you have any difficulties viewing this, as mentioned earlier, you can call Amanda Smith at 410-260-6589, and we'll try to be responsive as we can. Okay. Well, I thank you all for your time this evening. We will continue to move forward, and I'm sure those that are interested will have the opportunity to have further discussion with us as we go through this process. Thank you for tuning in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing, Alan?